Hello, everyone. This video will be a little bit different. This is just an intro video for the week. I recorded the theory lecture video separately from this one. So in that video, I'll address psychodynamic family theory as well as Bowen family systems theory. But in this one, I'll just talk about my discussion reactions as well as the midterm exam. So ethical cases for last week. I appreciated the conversations that surfaced. Ethical dilemmas often aren't going to be clear cut and easy. There's going to be different reactions. There's going to be different perspectives. I think the main thing that I want to strongly encourage, once again, I already talked about it last week, but again, is just the use of ethical decision-making models. I think going through kind of a structured process to make sure that you're being thoughtful about your decisions, that you're utilizing, feedback from colleagues, from supervisors, really applying well the codes of ethics, that basically can lead you to, this is the best decision that I can come to, even if there's not a clear answer, there's not an easy answer, but this is the best decision that I can come to, and here's why. I think it really helps in that regard. So now, just with some of my thoughts on the discussion board. So I'll just kind of address a few different things. A lot kind of stood out about just the distance counseling. I think that's really relevant nowadays with the significant increase in counseling, through telehealth or telemental health platforms. So at times, throughout the years, even just a few years ago before the pandemic, there was kind of, I would read things about, that telecounseling isn't for people who have, who are experiencing suicidal ideation or homicidal ideation. And now it's pretty normal to be working with clients who are experiencing suicidal ideation or homicidal ideation. I have a client who has experienced both, kind of to moderate, somewhat concerning, moderate to high level. But, there's just processes to systematically verify in order to help from a distance, so just verifying where they located every single session, having, a clear safety plan developed, so that they can follow that structure. Having, being clear about a phone number if there's any connection issues, or with Zoom or whatever platform's being used, to be able to call the client to continue the session or finish the session. Just being aware of, like, how do I access the mental health crisis, resources wherever they're located. That's just, then you can still support them from a distance. Privacy issues, came up that that those are some significant concerns out there about, just privacy issues with telecounseling. And that's going to be there. And in the end, there's always going to be confidentiality issues. Someone could break into a counseling office and steal the files, so it's not something we can control 100%. But, as long as we are following the HIPAA requirements for encryption, and being very meticulous about note-taking and, the security of those databases, then, we're following the best we can from a distance and following those requirements. And those will probably shift through time, but, staying current on what are the requirements now, according to the state that I'm in, according to the laws that have been developed, to make sure that I'm following those requirements. So that's kind of similar to in person, like, but there's going to be some challenges just about, even reaches mid-session, so kind of having in the informed consent process, like, if these situations occur, here are the steps that we take. Another thing that I think is important to consider is just, what's the response time? If you're working from a distance and they, like, what if they want to text you? What if they expect you to answer the phone because, they're at home and that's how they usually call in, or the counselor's available. So just, like, really setting up, the expectations of, how am I going to respond if you call? When am I going to respond? I just have it clear, like, from in these hours, this is where I have my work phone on me, and here's when I'll be able to respond. Outside of those hours, you can kind of follow the normal process to call the head office and talk to a front office there, or, if it's an emergency, to reach out to emergency, call 911, follow the safety plan to receive the support and care that you need. And some of you brought up the importance of the informed consent process, and the ACA Code of Ethics discusses that. And I think a lot of like being really thoughtful and thorough in the informed consent is important when you're doing distance counseling. Let's see what else I have here. Oh, and just something to think about, something maybe to research more. Some of the studies that I've looked at show that, distance counseling and in-person counseling, same effectiveness. And sometimes even more effective from a distance. Why that is, the studies didn't necessarily clearly know. They weren't measuring that or looking for that, but they noticed that sometimes the distance counseling was more effective. One just thought, this is anecdotal, but it could be that just the power dynamic is maybe more equalized. They're not coming to the counselor's office and being in the counselor's space. They're in their own comfortable space in their own environment. That sometimes can kind of help people have their guards down, not in a negative sense, but they feel more open and more comfortable. So just one idea that, there's maybe sometimes an assumption that in-person is better. I do agree though, with the nonverbal, sometimes it's like, you don't always see the full person. You don't see the leg tapping, if the video is just right here. So, there will be pros and cons. There will be challenges, and just differences. In the end, the last thing that I want to address is, sometimes this was somewhat brought up this week as well, that sometimes there might be a conflict between what is the law requiring and what is my code of ethics requiring. What do I do if they are not aligned? Most of the times, and from my experience, 99% of the time, they're going to be aligned. But what about for that 1% case, And so the code I1C addresses that conflicts between ethics and laws. So once again, they're usually going to align. The code kind of talks about that. The counselors it says, make known their commitment to the ACA Code of Ethics and take steps to resolve the conflict. But if the conflict, cannot be resolved using this approach, counselors acting in the best interest of the client may adhere to the requirements of the law, regulations, and/or other governing legal authority. So kind of the law, in my interpretation of reading this, the law has the final say and authority, but it's not an either or. It's like a both. Both can need to be followed, but for sure, in the end, the law is what's going to be required of you if you're called to court. And yeah, I guess, I could go on for a while about a lot that came up during this week, because there's a lot of important points, and with ethical cases, there's no clear-cut answer, or often no clear-cut answer. So let me shift to the midterm exam. You can take it up to 3 times. It's open book, 35 questions. You have 2 minutes per question, so 70 minutes is the time limit. And only the highest score is going to be recorded. So let's say your second time you got a 92%, and the third time you got an 82%. The 92% is what will go in the grade book. It's it's really based strongly and mostly just in the gliding text. If you've been participating, reading the chapters, taking notes, the gliding text will prepare you well for the midterm exam. And at the same time, I recommend that you take the exam by Wednesday, at least the first time, so then you kind of be able to gauge, do I want to take it again? And if so, how can I prepare? What material do I need to go over? What questions were challenging for me? Just so that you can be, ready to take it again and kind of know, you'll have the time to prepare well. So if you have any questions about the midterm, please reach out. But I look forward to another week with you all, and I'm here to support you. I'm here to help. I'm here, I'm happy to chat via Zoom when you need that. And yeah, I look forward to another week with y'all. Thanks.